Hello, and how are you this lovely Friday morning? As you can probably tell from the camera setup and everything, this is going to be a bit more of an extended discussion video, and we're going to be discussing some relatively serious topics. I don't want to scare you into thinking, we're going to be discussing, the most crazy stuff out in the world, but this is something that is a bit more of a serious video. And so, what I want to talk about is the upcoming event for Unite Burlington. And really, why Unite Burlington is important to me and to so many other people. Burlington is a pretty crime-heavy area. I don't know exact statistics as to how it compares to other cities around the US, but I do know that back when I was at Student Life Camp back in June, one of the first days we were there, I think either the Monday or the Tuesday, there were 3 separate gun-related homicides in one day. And as shocking and as painful as it was also just kind of, well, we do live in Burlington, sort of thing. And there's actually one young man in the youth group, Nate, who has been on the vlog a grand total of once, so you probably wouldn't remember him unless you're like a super hardcore remember everything sort of viewer. One of his brother's friends was actually one of the people who got shot that day. And so it really hit him as to him finally realizing this isn't something detached from us. This isn't something, just completely separate from any of our experiences. This is something happening to our friends and family in our hometown. And in the same way, I sat for a second and realized this is a problem. And as much as I like to joke about, we're going to City Park at night, we might get shot, it is a serious problem and something that, as the church, we should be doing everything in our power to address. And that's the purpose of Unite Burlington. And the reason it's such a specific passion project for me is because, when you look at gang activity, when you look at crime, not necessarily violent crime, and I want to go ahead and say that there are a lot of factors that play into this: poverty, race, socioeconomic status, level of education, and I don't want to pretend that I completely understand all of the intense nuances of what exactly it is that compels someone to join a gang or get involved in violent crime, because the majority of the time it either comes out of desperation or just not really having anything else to do, idle hands or the devil's playground. And so I just want to go ahead and say that I'm not going to be necessarily personally addressing a lot of the factors that go into this, because I don't necessarily feel that I'm qualified to discuss matters like race, like socioeconomic inequality, stuff like that. It's just not something that I have personal experience with. But the one thing that I do see statistically related to gang activity and crime rates are broken families, particularly absent fathers. Now, I don't want you to get the idea that my father left my family, but when I was 13 years old, my father did pass away due to some complications from a car accident, and I haven't told the entire story on the vlog before, but that did happen. And so when I see, broken families are such a big thing in crime rates and in people getting involved in gangs, I really saw recently how easily it could have been me if just one or two things were different. If I didn't have a community around me to support me, to carry me through the pain of losing part of my family, if I didn't have outlets such as my youth choir, such as theater, different things for me to channel my creative energies into that didn't involve, getting into drugs, getting into crime, getting into gangs, then it could have just as easily been me out there on the streets of Burlington shooting people for seemingly no reason. And I don't want you to think, he was so close to joining a gang. He could have been initiated at any time. He was, in the process of joining. No, I never personally got involved in crime because, again, I know there are so many factors that go into someone's willingness to do something like that. But I also do see that, a lot of these kids out there, they just don't have anyone to point them in the right direction. And so for me, I feel like since, I did go through something as tragic and as great as losing my father, but I had all these other things around me to help me not fall into any really bad stuff, it should then be my responsibility, not necessarily to be a role model to the young men and women out there, particularly men, because gang members are generally more men than women, but to not necessarily be role models to the young men out there who are potentially going to be joining gangs and channeling their energies into stuff that is ultimately only going to get them either in legal trouble or dead. I feel like I should be part of that network around them that shows them, there is something better than running around and stealing stuff and killing people. There is something better for you. And that is why Unite Burlington is such a big personal project to me, because I know how easily it could have been me, and I want to do everything in my power through the church and through my own personal life to prevent someone else in a somewhat similar situation from me from ending up in a bad place. Forgive me that this was a bit more of a serious video, but Unite Burlington is a big deal to me, and hopefully, it won't just be, the singular event and everyone will feel real good about themselves and we're going to go back to our normal day-to-day lives and crime rates aren't going to change. Kids are still going to feel disenfranchised and disenchanted with the world. Hopefully, this is going to spark some real change. And it's something that I am looking forward to and ready for the work ahead of me. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. That's all I have for today. And I guess I'll see you tomorrow.